Hi there everybody, this is David, and I love some job classes. I have yet to meet an RPG that hasn't been elevated by the inclusion of job classes. They just add so much replayability, so much value to the game. I really thoroughly enjoy job classes. And the very first game that actually introduced job classes into the Dragon Quest franchise was Dragon Quest III. But this new remake, this new HD2D version that we're playing, not only has a brand new job class, but also brand new abilities and a new reshuffling of spells as well, plus new weapons and everything else. So we need a new job class ranking, and that's what I'm going to be doing here today, and I do think that that's worth a sub as I try my hardest to hit 100,000 subscribers. And I know that with your help, your like, and your sub, I definitely can get there. And just an FYI, all the footage that you're going to be seeing here is straight off of my Nintendo Switch. So this is a Nintendo game after all, that's where I first played it. I just think that it's appropriate to continue the Nintendo tradition. So without further ado, let's start ranking these job classes from worst to best. Number 10, the gadabout. Do not be fooled by the modern day gadabouts like, Sylvando, who in Dragon Quest XI was probably one of the best party members. To be clear, gadabouts began here, and it began as a joke class. And it's still a joke class. Undoubtedly the worst class ever devised, because the more levels that they gain, the more abilities that you gain. But these abilities end up taking the place of actions that you want them to do, essentially making them uncontrollable. They'll go around paralyzing themselves, putting themselves to sleep, or even hurting your own party members. Yeah, they do get some neat stuff later on, like the ability to whistle and immediately get into a battle, or the hustle dance and things like that, but their main purpose is to just piss you off. However, there is a hidden secret with this class, because you can turn them into a sage at level 20 without the words of wisdom at All Trades Abbey. But that's not really worth the suffering of having this guy on your team. Number 9, the Mage. They did my little mage dirty. In the original NES game, the Mage was one of the best classes in the entire game, because he was one of the only ones that was able to hit weaknesses as well as hitting multiple monsters. However, in the remake, all the physical classes got brand new abilities, as well as better weapons and armor, whereas the magical classes pretty much just kind of remained static. In addition to that, many physical classes gained multi-targeting weapons like the whips and the boomerangs, which is what the mage's niche used to be. And these multi-targeting weapons really did take the poor mage down a notch. I mean, the ability to cast a spell and clear out randoms was superb, but what's the point whenever just about every other class do the exact same thing with their multi-targeting weapons, and for free? Essentially, you're going to want to grab him in the beginning of the game for oomph and kabuff, and then change him into something else whenever you reach level 20. Number 8, the Merchant. This guy really did get a massive upgrade in the remake. In my first ranking video, I placed him right underneath the gadabout, and he was that bad, but boy oh boy, he got a glow up. First of all, they are one of the few job classes that you can use both whips and boomerangs, being able to hit all enemies on the screen. But that's also kind of like their stick in combat too, because they've gained quite a few offensive abilities under the rock throwing umbrella. And these stone throw abilities deal fixed damage unaffected by your level or the enemy's defensive power to all the enemies on the screen, which is super handy, essentially making them like a non-elemental mage. And they even work on the metal monsters, though of course they only inflict 1 damage there. In addition to that though, they still do retain their ability to dig into the ground, maybe picking up some rarer monster drops, getting extra cash after battle, summoning shops and inns, and even appraising items. He's kind of a real jack of all trades now. Number 7, the Thief. Just as like an FYI and history lesson, the Thief was not in the original NES game. He was only added into the SNES remake, and then we first saw him in the West in the Game Boy Color port. He's able to equip every single whip in the game, as well as the claws, and he's a pretty versatile fighter during battles, but it's really outside of the battles that he shines. He comes with some pretty cool support abilities too, mostly in regards to finding items. For example, he can tell you how many items are in a particular area, and even show you where those items are located. Then he comes with the amazing Padfoot ability that not only reduces your encounter rate, but also allows you to recruit monsters that you would otherwise have to turn like invisible to recruit. In addition to that, After each battle, he has a small chance to steal an item for the last enemy defeated. So while he does have his uses, it's nothing too extravagant, and I would recommend putting him in your party for the early game to grab those abilities, but then changing him into something else later on once you do have the skills that you want. Number 6, the Monster Wrangler. Girl, let's talk. I am sure that this is the one that you want to know the most about, considering that it is the latest addition to this remake, so I'm going to spend some more time here on the Monster Wrangler to really let you know what he's all about. First things first, he is a jack of all trades. He can equip the boomerangs and the whips, and he can heal, and he has damage dealing abilities too. He can quite literally do it all. So in that way, he's kind of like a poor man's hero. But that being said, in the early game, he's actually better than the priest healing wise, because he gets a multi-target healing ability, recovering roughly 20 or so HP for all party members very early in the game. I mean, you're probably going to grab it while you're still on the Eliahan continent, whereas the priest has to wait quite a bit of time in order to learn multi-heal. Then he kind of gets a poor man's sword dance, where he's able to call on a monster which does 4 attacks of roughly 20 or so damage each to random monsters. But if you only have metal monsters on the screen, that is 4 possible hits against them. He also gets some like fire breathing attacks and skip a turn abilities too. Also, the more monsters that you recruit, the more your abilities will power up. And he has an ability that lets you see if you can recruit a monster in a specific area, which comes in very handy, if you gotta catch them all. Personally, I would definitely have a Monster Wrangler for the beginning of the game, or at least until you grab 50 monsters, because that gives you ability that allows you to do 2 actions per turn. Once you grab that, then you're probably going to want to switch him over to another class, and the Sage sounds great to me, which essentially gives him like a double cast. Number 5, the Warrior. When I was a kid, I loved the Warrior. He is your basic bare bones brawler, the strong, slow, reliable tank. And I always took like a soldier, a pilgrim, and the wizard in the NES version, and that was just the end of that. I mean, he undoubtedly has the best weapon and armor selection in the entire game, as well as some massive HP growth and some quick level gains. The guy is a brick house, able to survive anything thrown his way. Then there's his new abilities. He's actually quite versatile here. He gains defensive abilities like Forbearance, think like the Sentinel class from Final Fantasy XIII, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But later on, he also gets quite a few offensive abilities too, like Mercurial Thrust, which allows him to strike first, Sword Dance to hit an enemy 4 times, and Metal Slash 2, making metal hunting that much better. I would definitely have a warrior in my final party. Number 4, the Priest. I gotta ask, how are you gonna make the mage so bad and the priest so good? I mean, not only is the priest much sturdier than the mage with much better stat growths and equipment draws, but they get their group hitting spell at level 4, while the mage has to wait like forever for theirs. They also have the ability to heal, and they get the ever useful sap line of spells which lowers the enemy's defensive powers. I do think that having a priest in your party, or at least, having somebody with white magic, is pretty much essential, especially with all the new bosses that have been added into the game. However, their utility has been decreased just a little bit, because it's now easier than ever to survive dungeons, since you do get a full heal every time that you level up. And the utility of the other classes has been increased so much. I mean, the hero now has access to a revival spell with Zin, and the Monster Wrangler also gets access to healing abilities, so their niche has just been diluted a little bit. At the end of the day, they're still incredibly important, but I probably wouldn't bring one into the end game. Number 3, the Martial Artist. When I was a kid, I always thought that the Martial Artist was like a poor man's soldier. I didn't understand why anybody would want to use them, considering they had such a poor equipment selection. But later on, with the advent of the internet, I learned the true utility of the Martial Artist, because the main draw is their critical hit rate. It's just through the roof. It is more than double that of any other class. And in this series, where critical hits are so important for metal hunting and leveling, having that advantage is just worth so much. Not only that, but they get so many new claws here, and much earlier than in the previous games. Not to mention their new abilities, most of which are just single targeting damaging stuff. That is, till you hit the end game, where you get some new group hitting attacks, the ability to dispel positive buffs, and most importantly, at level 47, the ability to always deal a critical hit no matter what. King Metal Slimes, say your prayers. Number 2, the hero. Many of you might find it quite surprising to see that the ubiquitous hero is only number 2. But keep in mind, the series is still finding its footing here, so it's not too overpowered yet. The hero combines the best of both worlds with a soldier's equipment selection as well as boomerangs, healing and attack magic, as well as his own unique line of spells that nobody else can get access to, along with high stat growths in every area. Then, to gild the lily, he even gets access to unique weaponry of his own. I mean, he is the main character of the game, and he is able to solo it if you really wanted to. It really is in its great versatility that allows you to build up whatever team of classes that you want. Do you want a bunch of physical attackers? Okay, well then the hero is going to be your wizard and healer. What about a party of casters? Well, that's fine too, because the hero will be there to be your tank. He covers every role. However, there is one more class that is more versatile than him. And that's number 1, the Sage. Here we have the hidden job class of the game. This is the only job that you cannot select at Patty's party planning place at the beginning of the game. The only way to become a Sage are either to level up a gadabout to level 20, or find the Words of Wisdom in the tower north of All Trades Abbey. After either of those prerequisites are filled, then, and only then, can you become a Sage. The job is well worth the effort though, because it will give you access to the ultimate caster in the game, with the stat growths and equipment draw of the priest, but more importantly than that, they can cast every single white and black magic spell in the entire game. So you can't afford to kind of put your casters into the Sage and then make your other 2 characters physical fighters, since he'll have all of your casting covered. Whether you need healing, damaging, warping, buffing, or debuffing, he's got it all covered, and that is why he's number 1. So that's it for ranking the job classes of Dragon Quest III HD2D Remake. And if you like this video, here's another video that I really do think that you're just going to love. So now I've got to ask you, how do you feel about these rankings? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this video and wanted to hear on the channel, please consider supporting me over on the Patreon, or joining the Discord to chat and hang out. The links to them can be found in the video description. This has been David, and if you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.